So in this video I want to talk about habits. And the reason I want to talk about habits is because it really dictates most of what we experience in life. And what I mean by that is that a lot of what we do is on autopilot. You know, we wake up in the morning, we have a certain routine. So whether you eat breakfast or not, whether you brush your teeth or take a shower, it's all part of a routine often that's just habitual. Some people think of habits as like negative things, like something that's bad for your health, like smoking or something. But often people don't realize that even simple things like what are you thinking about is often a habit. I was talking earlier about like beliefs, like what do you believe in? And a lot of that's dictated by what you're thinking about. If you're constantly thinking about certain outcomes or certain things, then that affects your perception, like what you will see. If you're thinking about red cars as an example, you'll probably notice all the red cars on the road. You'll still see that there's other ones like blue and green and black and white, but you might not see them as many of them. You'll think, wow, there's so many more red cars than I thought on the road, because you're thinking about that. So that perception will dictate even and reinforce a bit of your beliefs, which if your beliefs are there's a lot of red cars on the road, well then when you think about it and then you notice it, it reinforces it. And so what happens is often when we have a certain belief, it also dictates our habits. It's kind of like a little cycle. So then if you believe something's going to happen, then you may or may not feel empowered to do something about it. So someone who's feeling empowered will often see like, oh, this thing happened to me, you know what? I'll just do this instead and everything will work out fine. Someone else might have a situation where something happens to them and they'll be like, oh man, now I can't do this or that, and then they'll feel kind of frustrated or sunken from it. So think about what your habits are. Like, are you habitually thinking about what are possible things that you can do, things that are possibilities, like changing something to make it better, or accepting something for what it is and being perfectly fine with it, seeing that it's not a negative or positive at all, just, it is what it is. Everyone has a different way of seeing it. And that's just one aspect. I mean, habits are also like, do you just follow what everyone else does or says? Do you follow the new trends? Because there's nothing wrong with being trendy and having nice things or whatever, but a lot of times I find it comical when there's people that will say something is ugly or something like, oh, I don't like that style, and then a year later when it becomes popular, that's the style that they love. Well, what the heck? Like, is that something that they really enjoy or really like, or are they just choosing it because everyone else is? I think that we should all choose what makes us feel good, whether it be something that we want to do, whether it's something we want to wear, where we want to live, who we want to experience our life with. All of these things are our own personal choices, and they should all be what makes us feel good instead of just what everyone else is saying. And that kind of is interesting when you think about like the economy and different things, because people always talk about what's happening in the world, what's happening with jobs or with the stock market, housing prices, all that kind of stuff, and people will often just believe whatever the so-called experts say, when if you really think about it, is what they're saying really true, or is there a different twist to what they're saying, or are they taking a certain type of fact or a certain type of statistic and just using it in a way that works for them? So I'm not saying people are making stuff up necessarily. A lot of people genuinely believe that what they're saying is the actual message that they're saying, but they might not have delved as deeply into things like, their sources, or even, the source is fine, the fact is fine, the statistic is fine, but how they're interpreting it could be a little skewed, or how people are receiving that information even could be skewed. So I believe in like using the internal BS meter a little bit, more frequently than maybe most, just to know, is this something I really want to believe or not, or am I going to look twice into it? I'm not just going to discount everything and say, oh, I don't believe anything, but I like to really know that what I'm reading or what I'm watching, what I'm taking in, I like to believe that, okay, this makes sense to me, so I'm going to take this in, and if it becomes a part of my belief system, and if I'm going to share it, I need to make sure that I feel good about it. And that's a habit that I have, which maybe is different than most to kind of look into stuff. But it's just an example. Some people habitually just do whatever. If someone tells them something, okay, I'll share that information too. So they might have trouble in certain situations, but often there's a flip side to every coin. Someone who's a bit more easygoing in that regard will find that they get out of jams pretty easily because they just find ways. They don't even think about it. It just happens kind of intuitively a lot of times. So it's fascinating when you realize just where our habits coming from and how do they dictate our life. And if you go internal a bit and try to think about like what your own habits are, do you like your habits? Do you want to shift any of them, or do you want to reinforce some of them or pull back on them? Because I don't like the idea of just changing who you are, because who we are is who we are. But I think it's good to realize when we have good habits to feel good about ourselves for those habits. And if there's some things we want to tweak or something, we can realize like, oh hey, that habit, it's not bad, but it's not maybe as resourceful as it could be. I could shift it a little bit and then maybe get more use out of it, more value from it. So anyways, that's some thoughts about habits, and hope you enjoy this video.